Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Ansang Cheol made a proposal and said, "We won't ask to join the party for free. I have information about round 6. If you let us join the party, I'm willing to share the information." Ryu smiled and said to himself, "What you're trying to share with me is what I told you." Then he said to Ansang Cheol, "I don't need it." Ansang Cheol looked puzzled, unaware of this fact, and he asked, "Why don't you need it? Wouldn't it be helpful to know how to pass round 6 in advance?" Ryu replied, "I'll strategize in my own way. I don't rely on unreliable information." Seeing Ansang Cheol's flustered state, Ryu couldn't resist playing a little prank, and he asked, "But where did you get that information?" The bodyguard hesitated and said, What information are you talking about?" Ryu said. "The information about round 6 that you just mentioned. Who's the source?" The bodyguard was caught off guard, unsure how to respond. Revealing the existence of the prophet would put them at risk, so he hesitated. Then Ryu added, "Can't you say it? If you do, I'll let you join the party." Reluctantly, the bodyguard lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry." Surprisingly, it was difficult for him to speak up. Then Ryu smiled and said to himself, he won't reveal the existence of the prophet. Of course, he didn't want to mention it to avoid Heavenly Demon's wrath, but it didn't bother him much. The bodyguard, on the other hand, was crestfallen, and he said to himself, "Darn it, I couldn't party with Black Scythe as planned. How will he report this to the CEO?" Then, unexpectedly, Ryu made a decision and said, "I'll let you join the party." The bodyguard was surprised and said, "You will? But why?" Ryu said, "I thought it might be trustworthy since you didn't reveal the source of the information. I don't like filthy rats." Realizing that exposing the prophet's existence could have backfired, the bodyguard breathed a sigh of relief. The two expressed their gratitude and said, Thank you, Black Scythe," and they turned to Minjuri. It seemed they were still curious about her relationship with Black Scythe. Seeing that, Ryu said, "As for her, she's a buffer in a contract relationship with me." Then they asked themselves, a contract relationship? A buffer? How did they meet up? They had many questions, but they decided to inquire about the contract first. And they said, if it's a contract relationship, Ryu said yes, there is such a thing. At that moment, their curiosity subsided. It seemed Ryu wouldn't disclose more details, even if they asked. Then Seo Arin shifted her gaze toward Minjuri and said, "Hello, I'm Seo Arin. It's a pleasure to meet you." Minjuri said, "Oh yes, I'm Minjuri. By any chance, are you the famous Seo Arin? Did you just change your appearance?" Seo Arin said, "Yes, that's me." Minjuri said, "Really? I was curious, given your identical face and name." And Minjuri was ecstatic. Meeting a TV celebrity in person was truly fascinating. And she added, "Oh my God, I'm a huge fan of yours. My father adores the drama you were in. He's a massive Seo Arin actress fan." Seo Arin nodded politely and said, "Thank you for your kind words." While Minjuri continued with excitement, the bodyguard cast a glance at Ryu and said, Are you sure it's okay not to share information about round 6 with you?" Ryu said coldly, "I don't need it. Don't bother offering it to me. I don't want to owe you anything." The bodyguard felt a tinge of disappointment as Black Scythe drew a clear line, and he said to himself, "I was planning to provide information in exchange, but if Black Scythe didn't want it, there was nothing to be done. Maybe I should discreetly advise him if he deviates from the provided information during the quest." When Ryu shared the information, he had considered offering a bit of assistance to make the prophecy come true, that if they didn't follow his words, but it seemed unnecessary now. At that time, the two women continued their conversation. And Seo Arin said, "By the way, Minjuri, is your profession a buffer?" Minjuri said, "Yes, I'm a buffer, and I'll buff everyone later." Seo Arin said, "I have something similar to a buff in my job, too. And I'm a summoner, and I can cast shields with my fairy summons." Minjuri asked in amazement. "Summoner? You have summons?" Seo Arin replied, "Yes, my profession is a summoner. I can summon up to 3 creatures I'll show you later." At that moment, the bodyguard interjected and said, "I apologize for interrupting. I think it's important to exchange greetings. My name is Ansang Cheol." Minjuri said, "Oh, nice to meet you. I saw you earlier, and it seemed like you and Black Scythe knew each other." He said, we received some help from Black Scythe. He saved both of our lives. Minjuri said, oh, I see. And she looked at Black Scythe in surprise and said to herself, he even rescued someone who was in danger. My instincts were right. And she once again felt that Black Scythe was a surprisingly warm-hearted person. As more people gathered over time, Priscilla appeared with a burst of light and said, hello, humans. Have you rested well for a month? And she added, there are 1,010 participants for this round, which is a perfect number. Shall we get straight to the point? Then a message window appeared before the players. Round 6. Defeat one boss within 6 hours. All areas. Participants, 16,120, 590 achievers, 0, 8,062.95. Current area, CESKS007. Participants, 1,010 achievers, 0505. Then one player inquired, what's this? Defeat one boss? Our boss is finally coming out. Another said, how are we supposed to defeat a boss on our own? Hearing the murmurs, Priscilla chuckled and spoke. Don't worry, you can't defeat the boss on your own. Of course, you'll need to work together. One player inquired, we can't defeat it alone? Work together? How? Priscilla said, naturally, you'll need to form parties. That's where the party system comes in. And she added, a party is a group formed to allow cooperation among its members. You need 5 members to form a party, and when you're in a party, you won't harm each other. One player said, oh, so we won't accidentally hit each other? Priscilla said with an evil smile. That's right. No more worries about friendly fire or betrayals. That's convenient, isn't it? And she continued saying, however, attacks from other parties or monsters will still affect you. Only your party members' attacks will be nullified. The players nodded in understanding, and the quest's difficulty seemed reasonable. If you had a party of 5, defeating the boss should be manageable. Then Priscilla said, when you form a party, the experience points and gold obtained from defeating monsters are distributed evenly among party members, regardless of who delivers the killing blow. Just keep in mind that if the distance between party members exceeds 100 meters, the distribution won't occur. One player said, oh, so experience points and gold are distributed equally? I think it's fair, though. Another asked Priscilla. So, how are items distributed then? She said, unlike experience points or gold, items are distributed based on contribution. For example, if 2 humans contributed 70% and 30% to defeating a monster, the chances of getting an item when it drops will be proportional to those percentages. The player said so the person who contributed more to defeating the monster has a higher chance of getting the item. I see. That makes sense. Another asked. So, conversely, even if someone had a low contribution, they could still get an item if they're lucky. Priscilla replied, that's correct. Even if you contributed only 1%, you could still get an item if luck is on your side. The probability might be low, though. Then one said, Angel, I have a question. How is contribution measured? Is it all about dealing the most damage? Wouldn't that disadvantage players with lower damage output? Priscilla replied, that's a good question. While dealing more damage usually leads to higher contribution, it's not always directly proportional. The system considers all factors and makes a judgment to measure contribution, so even a player who mainly provides buffs can affect contribution. One said happily, wow, so just giving buffs can earn you contribution. At that time, Ryu said to himself, for me now, parties are just a nuisance, but I can't say no. Then Priscilla said, by the way, if you don't form a party, even if you defeat monsters, it won't count. And as the angel had just mentioned, the system enforced party formation, so there was no option for soloing. Then Priscilla added, but that doesn't mean there are no advantages to it. The benefits of a party include the ability to rely on each other and cooperate freely. And after forming a party and defeating just one boss, you'll immediately pass the round. All 5 members, that is. One player inquired in amazement, all 5 members? Priscilla said yes, but in the current field there are 101 boss monsters released. In other words, only the 505 who defeat a boss will survive. Then the angel chuckled and clapped her hands and said, that concludes the explanation about parties. Now that you know the quest, it's nothing special, right? Just defeat one boss, and it's a straightforward quest to pass. Hearing that, a hint of amusement appeared on Ryu's lips, and he said to himself, it wasn't as simple as she made it seem. And before the angel disappeared in a flash of light, she said, now, humans, do your best to defeat the boss. Oh, and there are no sub-quests, so keep that in mind. Then one player said, easy quest, my ass. This boss is going to be a real pain. Mark my words. The curses and doubts flowed freely as the angel vanished into thin air. Everyone knew by now that curses hurled in the angel's absence fell on deaf ears. The angel only appeared at the start and end of the quest, a fact well known to all. At that time, the timer on the progress window began ticking, announcing the commencement of the quest. Time remaining until round end, 05, 59, 53. And within the time limit, the party had to form and defeat the boss, or else they would meet a grim fate. At that moment, a message popped up demanding action. Form a 5-member party starting now. To create a party, hold hands with 5 people and memorize the party formation command simultaneously. Remember, defeating the boss won't count unless you form a party, so keep that in mind. Then one player said we should definitely form a party, right? Another said, yeah, they say defeating the boss doesn't count without one. So would you like to join my party? He asked. What's your level? He said, I'm a level 20 warrior, and people raised their hands, searching for potential party members. The scene turned into a bustling marketplace in no time. Amidst the chaos, the bodyguard pondered Ryu's prophecy, and he said to himself, it's all unfolding, just as the prophet foretold. The 6th round requires a 5-member party. Then he cast a glance at Black Scythe by his side. He knew it was a wise choice to stick with him after hearing the prophecy, and he said, Mr. Black Scythe, we should... But Ryu interrupted his words and said, wait, since it's a 5-member party, we need to find more 1 player. Minjuri asked, who should we choose for the last spot? The bodyguard said, let's leave it to Mr. Black Scythe, the strongest among us. Nodding in agreement, the others turned their attention to Ryu. Ryu pretended to ponder, but he already had a candidate in mind, someone he wished to include in the party, someone who had to be nearby so that Ryu could smoothly invite him. But suddenly, one player approached and said, hello, Mr. Black Scythe. Would you by any chance consider joining our party? But with a sharp tone of voice and a look that made that player's ass pump water like a fountain. Ryu said, no, go away and don't waste my time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel financially. Tell me in the comments if you want another manhwa in addition to this one.